What if criminal laws such as forgery, fraud, negligence, and misrepresentation could be enforced in Canada against the large financial players and against regulators? What if these industries were not too big to prosecute? What if Canada had a police agency that was able to treat financial crimes like any other crimes, to prosecute them even? What if Canadians were informed whether their financial person was a true professional with a university level of competence or a salesman with a 3-month correspondence course? What if they had to display an actual license on the wall? What if instead of allowing the several 100,000 persons who feed off the investment industry to tell us how noble they are, what if we had just one consumer protection agency working for us that was not bought and paid for by the investment industry? What if Canada had a system of consumer protection where intentionally tainted or misrepresented investments could not be sold to an unsuspecting public? What if Canada protected and valued whistleblowers, those people who risk everything they have to tell the truth and warn the public of tainted or dangerous goods or predatory services? What if abused and victimized investment clients could take their complaints to criminal authorities instead of being herded like cattle into the industry-designed and industry-refereed kangaroo courts? What if the Canadian investing public were informed of whether they were in a trusting professional financial advisory relationship or in a predatory buyer beware relationship where it's every man for himself? What if investment professionals were required to put your investment plan, your risks, your costs, and their conflicts of interest in writing so that you are informed? Some of the pros I used to work with already do this. Imagine if every financial professional had to do it to be considered a professional. What if investment firms in Canada were forced to refund money on investments which were knowingly tainted or knowingly misrepresented, like Walmart or other decent retailers do each and every day? What if in Canada we did not have to prove intent to defraud? What if we just had to prove the fraud, like they do in the United States? Can you imagine a hockey game where we could not call a penalty unless we could prove that a player truly intended to hurt the other player? Why has our legal system put this impossible barrier between us and justice? What if the justice system in Canada could bring a con artist to jail in 6 months like the US did recently with Bernie Madoff? Is our legal system so third world that it takes us 11 years to jail Garth Drabinsky or anyone? Do we have a warped and self-serving legal system? Come on guys, clean up your act and clean up your profession, or please just do us all a favor and stop calling yourselves a profession. Some people stopped a long time ago. What if Canadian politicians actually protected us from predatory financial behavior instead of wooing the predators for contributions and selling themselves to be on their future boards of directors? With over 130,000 registered investment salespersons in Canada calling themselves every name in the world except the name salesperson, what if the Competition Bureau of Canada actually read their own law against misrepresentation and took steps to enforce it? What if consumers were actually notified if tainted products needed to skirt our laws in order to be sold in Canada? I imagine that if many of these things were to happen, a lot of very rich Canadian investment dealers would be quite upset. I know they were upset when I asked just a few of these questions when I worked with them. They said things to me like, "Larry, you're not a team player," and "Larry, you need to play ball with us." I now know that these are terms that mean, "Larry, you need to keep your mouth closed and help us to screw the public. It's how we get rich the quick way." They just did not have the courage to say it out loud. I, on the other hand, thought that my job was not to get rich quick, but to serve my clients as best I could. I was wrong. That is not the intent of the investment industry in Canada today. The industry will be predatory and never professional until we force upon them a system of best practices. I will end this little film journey here by thanking you for taking the time to check it out. I hope you will go to breachoftrust.ca and investoradvocates.ca and use the information there to call your MLA. Let him or her know that a public inquiry is needed into just 2 out of the thousands of legal and financial tricks that are played on the public each and every day. I end with a short list of public and authority figures who have been long aware of the crimes against the public done by this financial industry. For some reason they have looked the other way. They have found it easier to ignore financial raping of the public than to do their jobs and stand up to billion-dollar corporations. You'll have to ask them why. It's now in your hands, you, the audience. I've done what I can to make the public aware of the problem as I see it. Now it's up to you. You can leave this theater and talk among your friends of what you have seen here, or you can stand up and use your voice for change. Without your voice, your demand, your letter, nothing will happen, and Canada will remain the best country in the world for white-collar crooks to work their trade.
Everything